All right, let's try this again. I just had a handful of nuts right before this, which apparently was not a good idea. Unfortunately, no. But it just got all that like powdered gunk right at the top of my esophagus.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that'll happen.
Welcome to the Why Dad Podcast, where we hack up a lung. We are your hosts, Paul Wandry and Andrew Stolpelstead, and we are on a mission to figure out what it really means to be a man, a husband, and a father, and how to not die in the process. Not as experts, but as guys just trying to figure it out, learning what actually matters, what's just noise, and how to become the versions of ourselves our families need and deserve. This is a place for honest conversations, real habits, and the kind of growth that happens intentionally. We're redefining fatherhood one anaphylactic response at a time, one habit at a time. That was a struggle, but we made it through.
You guys just like pause next time when you feel it coming on.
Archer Sterling. Trying to dig to China and through our leather couch.
You don't want him to. That's a nice couch.
Yes, not as nice as our interview couch from the Broman days, but
that's Cato's couch now.
Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, no, it is. It's very nice. Anyway, so today's gonna be a fun one. Just got back from vacation to North Carolina.
Oh, that's right.
And I don't think I talked to you about this part yet, but we had some fun incidents, air quotes around fun. I mean, no, they were good. While in North Carolina, so it was a 2-part vacation. Mind you, we're flying, the 4 of us, Sarah and I, Evie, who's 5, and Liam, who's 1. And the first half of the vacation is in the Raleigh area, where we're visiting my sister and her family. And then the second half of the vacation, or last third, was down in Asheville, visiting our good friends who live there.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah and Laura have known each other since college, and they're very good friends.
Oh, yeah, Laura's the one I walked down the aisle with at your wedding.
Yes, exactly. Good memory.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And now she had just started dating then her now husband, Blair. And so we were staying at their lovely home in the mountains, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. A beautiful, beautiful home, beautiful property with their own residential black bear running rounds on the premises. Anyway, so our tale begins here. So mind you, we had 5 days of fun, whatever it was, in Raleigh with cousins, nonstop. Cousins running around, chasing aunts and uncles chasing them. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Rent a car to drive 4 hours down to Asheville, because then we'll fly out of Asheville. And I'm just adjusting the volume here, but we'll fly down to Asheville, out of Asheville.
Okay.
And Liam, we were hoping, we left right after lunch, and we were hoping he would just, sleep most of the way. He cried most of the way. Poor guy.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. Evie was a trooper. And we found gas along the way, 50 cents cheaper than anywhere else. And it took us as long as you would expect. We didn't realize, I mean, we should when we saw the line outside of the gas station, we didn't realize why. We thought it was just a bad circulation thing.
Yeah.
But no, everybody from the whole county was coming to get gas here, and it took us half an hour to get gas. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But this is all to kind of paint the picture that it's the tail end of a long trip. Kids are tired. Parents are tired, but that's neither here nor there. And we're going to go visit our good friends who they are great aunts and uncles, or aunt and uncle. They do not have any kids of their own. So Evie, no play pal,
Yeah.
And what I want to bring up today is a couple of the events that are kind of funny in hindsight were a little tricky in the moment, but it kind of highlighted the differences or the challenges that one can encounter as as a parent, because I'm telling this from my perspective, and doing life with those who aren't parents but who like are intentional and involved.
Right.
And overall, I think everything ended very well. I think our relationships are better for it. I think we're all closer to each other. I think we have built up our village or improved our village a little bit. It takes a village as a result, but there were a little, I mean, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, there are blips on the radar, but that's what we're going to talk about today. So, let's see. We get in Thursday evening, no big deal. Friday, we go and do stuff. And then in the evening, we go to this place downtown Asheville for a 6:00 dinner reservation, which 6:00 is when Liam goes to bed.
Yeah.
And, we're like, he'll be fine, like one of us will just hold him or we'll feed him or hopefully he'll get an extra nap or whatever. He was not fine. I mean, he was okay, but Evie was also, she was doing well. But she's like a bundle of energy. She's overtired. She doesn't have any other kids. We brought a coloring book for her, but pretty quickly that, she's over that. It's a tapas place, so very tasty food, and she's eating some of it. But, she's tired, and when she gets tired, she can't sit still, right? Like, so
what kid can, right?
So she's like, exactly, even if they're not tired. So, she's like upside down on her chair, feet in the air, and like that's one thing. She's like cuddling into Laura, and that's another thing. Like, that's fine, but like she's just very, fidgety, very whatever. Okay, it's all good. We are, trying to find the right balance between like letting her, do what she needs to do,
Be
but also
her.
like maintain propriety. And then she gets out of her chair, and the server's booth is right behind us, with the computer where they go input orders and all that,
Yeah.
and input the payments and everything, the touch screen. And like she's staring at it the whole meal, right? So, and she's like device deprived at this point, probably. And she's like, "Oh, cool! Look at the screen. Like, I see these waiters and waitresses like doing stuff to it. I want to go check it out." So she gets up, and before like any of us kind of register what's happening, like she's tapping the screen. I think she only taps it once, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah and I like are like, "Evie, get back in your seat," or something like that, right? And then our friend says like also jumps in, which I'm sure you see this in your house, Andrew. Like, do you see this where like a kid does something not necessarily appropriate and then multiple adults like make the same correction?
Yeah, it's a natural thing.
Yeah, because everybody sees the same thing, and they're taking ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, if not done excessively, like I'm okay with it. We had to have a sit down with my dad and his wife a couple years back because my dad's wife maybe took that like jumping in when parents were right there a little too far.
It's something like I know you and I have talked on it on a personal level, but like the last times your sister and brother-in-law were over, there was kids dancing on the dining room table and like they were like climbing up and getting shaky. And I was just like, "Ugh." Like not my kids. Like I have to like catch myself because I do want to jump in. Like it's just like the natural thing to.
Yeah. Yeah. And like all part of like it takes a village. I don't think anybody wants like, okay, I don't want anybody but myself and Sarah
Mm-hmm.
to like jump in and correct my child. Like I don't think we actually want that, and I don't think any parent actually wants that.
Right.
But it's all within, you know, all within reason, right?
Right.
But
Right.
but here's the thing that I do appreciate about that, and that's somebody cares about your kid enough and
Mm-hmm.
feels close to you and your family enough that they feel comfortable. And this is like most of the time, maybe not all the time, but like they feel comfortable enough to help guide your child, right? The challenges arise when how they do it doesn't necessarily align with how you do it.
Right.
And this was such a case. So like I said, like I think in hindsight, I'm super grateful that, we have this relationship with Laura and Blair, that they feel comfortable and care enough to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
But so Laura says, she also jumps in on the correction bandwagon, and so we're all like, at least three of us adults are correcting Evie at the same time, and she says, that's naughty, that's inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, Andrew, if you and I have talked about this on air before.
Not on air. I
Um,
can tell you that much.
I think we've talked about it off air, but for our listeners, we don't say the N word, and that's naughty. We do not say naughty.
You don't say the other.
Yeah, naughty with a hard T. Oh, wait, the N word with a hard T. No, but we don't say that, and we don't say bad. We don't say you're naughty. We don't say you're bad. We don't say that's naughty or that's bad. And here's why: not because we, want to coddle Evie and Liam, but because when that language is used, they internalize it.
Mm-hmm.
They being little kids. So they don't hear like, oh, yes, like that's naughty. Okay, yes, the thing I did, which is entirely separate from who I am as an individual, was maybe not an appropriate thing to do. They hear, oh, I'm bad. Like, I'm naughty. I'm not a good kid. And they internalize that, and that becomes their internal dialogue. So as much as possible, we try to avoid that. And on the flip side, we also don't say, as much as we try to not say, you're smart, you're like definitive things,
Mm-hmm.
because then they also internalize that, and they start to, I'm getting kind of sidetracked here, but they start to live for that praise.
This we've talked about, yeah.
To get that praise and to avoid the negative side of things, but then it limits them, right? So this is the negative side of that, and we don't want them to internalize that. And so I'm upset, because like, okay, one, like, we're, swarming Evie with correction.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, you know, telling my child that like, and by the way, I asked them if I could talk about these things, and they were cool with it. And this was a learning experience, I think, for all of us. So by no means am I hope it's not coming across negatively, Laura or Blair's part, because at the end of the day, it was a learning experience, right? For all of us. And I'm like, I look at her and I'm like, we don't use those words. And she's like, well, it was naughty. And at this point, I'm like, I'm not going to get into this right now.
Right.
Abby, I think you need to go outside right now, so I'm going to take you outside. But really, I needed to go outside too. And I took her outside, and sure enough, she was taking it to heart, right? She was
Mm-hmm.
like, Laura said I'm naughty, like I'm a bad kid. So at that moment, I won't dredge through the details of like, helping her regulate, helping her feel safe, discussing like what is and isn't appropriate in a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
etc. But, did all that. When Evie is like in a decent frame of mind, I'll bring her back in, and I'm like, I'm not going to hang out in here. Like, I'm still a little peeved. So I grab Liam and I go outside with him. You know, he's super tired. He needs to be walked around for a bit.
Yeah.
Definitely not because I need space. But anyway, you know, as we go home, as we drive home late that night after dinner, you know, Sarah's like, yeah, I like chatted with them a bit and I like shared a bit about our philosophy and you know why we choose those words and why we eschew others. And that's when I was like starting to reflect on like, you know, yeah, I was really mad, but I am glad that they felt, you know, that they feel comfortable enough and involved enough, you know, to want to help Abby through situations like that. So anyway, we get home, we put her to bed, and this was the really cool part on Laura's part because she didn't have to do this, but you know, once the kids are in bed, she's like, "Hey, I have to get something off my chest. I'm sorry about that." You know, like I think, and she shared that, you know, and this is something that like, as a parent, as a dad, I can relate with so often. Like, I am responding to how I am feeling or how it's impacting me as opposed to the behavior itself. And she's like, you know, I was, you know, worried about making a scene. I was worried about, you know, and you know, without oversharing on her part, but yeah, she just basically kind of shared where it was coming from, and she said, you know, I apologize, and I don't know why I doubled down on it being naughty, like when you were saying that, and I thought that was really cool because that opened the doors for us to talk more about it. Again, for us to share, like, okay, this is our perspective. Like, this is not saying it's right, but this is what we're trying to do, and we're super grateful to have you on that journey. You know, Abby calls them Aunt Blair, and she does call him Aunt Blair and Aunt Laura. I don't know why she calls them that aunt instead of uncle. She always gets it mixed up. But anyway, like they're an adopted uncle and aunt,
Right.
even though not blood related, and we're super grateful to have you on this journey. And it opened up the opportunity for us to kind of clear the air, to get on the same page. And I know in the future, as things happen, that they're going to be armed with, you know, our philosophy and we'll be able to help Evie through tricky situations going forward. The other thing we're able to talk about is like, you know, like she's just 5. Yeah. Does that excuse behavior, like inappropriate behavior? No. But like
Not
she's
entirely.
No. You short circuited me there for a second. It
I'm
doesn't
saying
entirely
because
excuse it.
there's wiggle room.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. There is, because this is the first time that they're learning, like this is the first time that they're being human, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she's 5 years along the road, but like it's still new scenarios every day. And she's pushing the boundaries. She's testing to see where the boundaries are, right? And it's our job to help provide those boundaries. But more often than not, it comes just from a place of curiosity or a place
Right.
of like she's not trying to be bad, right?
No,
She's not. Yeah. So we were able to share some of that. Now, I would have been fine if that was our only event for the whole weekend, but as you can guess, it wasn't. Now get ready for this one. So I think it was the next day. Yeah, it was the next day. We were at the brewery, Highland Brewery. So if you're ever in Asheville, go to this brewery. It's like,
it's amazeballs.
yeah, it's like I don't know, a brewery empire. Like they've got this massive property. They've got a natural playground for the kids. Like just this massive outdoor area, wooded. It's like if you took Surly, if you've been to Surly, or for those who've been to Surly in Minneapolis, it's like a huge destination brewery, and you like double it in property size and then smack it in the middle of woods and mountains. Like that's
Dang.
Highland Brewery. They've got like a disc golf course going through. They've got indoor and outdoor beer. They've got food trucks. They've got volleyball courts. You know, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So great place. And we had a lot of fun there. They brought their 2 dogs, including their 6-month-old who they're training. And Evie got to walk, her name is Maisie, got to walk Maisie all around the brewery on her own. And so it was good, like, training for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like going around, she was like basically selling pets. She was like, you want to pet my dog? If anybody wants to pet my dog, feel free, come and pet my dog.
Can see
So
you're
she was
doing
having a
that too.
blast. Oh yeah. So everything's going hunky dory. Then it's time to go. We're wrapping up. Everybody's tired. Everybody's ready to go. And I didn't see this part, but apparently Uncle Blair was sitting at the picnic table and Evie was trying to pass him by. And as a 5-year-old might do, she tries to budge past him because, that's what she does at daycare. She budges past the
Mm-hmm.
other kids and, that's what kids do. Is it the most polite thing to do? No. And Uncle Blair sets a boundary and he puts up his arm, doesn't let her pass, and says, like, is there something, like, I forget his exact words that he said, but something to the effect of, like, is there something you want to ask, or can you think of a better way to ask to pass or something like that? Which I'm all good with that. Do
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Set the boundary, especially when it comes to yourself. Like, don't let a 5-year-old trample over you. I'm good with that. It was
Mhm.
respectful. It was good. It was calm. It was patient. And Evie must be like me, or probably like a lot of us.
She's a lot
but
like you, Paul.
But as a kid, there was probably very few things that I hated worse than getting corrected by an adult that wasn't my parent.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably to a point of like, it was like shameful for me whenever that happened. And I like felt it viscerally. And my guess is it's kind of similar for Evie. So she didn't like that. So she spits in his face and runs off. And I had no idea that this happened, And there was a moment where like I couldn't find her and we were like looking for her. And that's probably she went and disappeared because she was feeling embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm none the wiser. We go home and we go back to Blair and Laura's place, and it was been a long day. Abby asked to watch TV. I'm sure, sure, ask Uncle Blair if you can use his TV. And she goes and she asks, "Hey, can I use your TV?" And Uncle Blair says, I think there's something we need to talk about." And immediately she knows.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what is it we need to talk about? She's like, "I spat in your face." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Is there something that you want to say?" And of course she says, "I'm sorry," because like she knows what she's supposed to say or what is wanted to be said. And she says like, and then Blair continues on, is like, "Okay, but like that, like this is how that made me feel." And at this point, there's me, Sarah, Blair, and Evie's in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, she had already said she's sorry, and I'd already admitted to what she had done. And I don't know if this was the right move. It may not have been, but I felt like if I were Evie, I would be feeling ganged up on. 3
Yeah.
adults towering over me. I already said I'm sorry, and now here is like, okay, I said I'm sorry. I said like I acknowledged what I did was wrong. And then here, like, they're starting to like add on to why it was wrong, And that wasn't Blair's intention, right? Blair was just trying to
communicate.
And he was doing it very calmly, very patiently. Mm-hmm. He waited until we were home. His plan was to talk to me and Sarah before.
Right.
But he's like, "I'm not going to let Evie like use my TV if we've got bad blood between us,
Right.
I'm exaggerating a little there, right? But like, if there's something to be resolved, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I was like, so he's not doing anything wrong, and maybe I should have let him finish. But I'm like, ooh, like I'm feeling bad on Evie's part. So I'm like, she said she's sorry. Are we good here? Also at this point, because I cut him off and I didn't let him say what he was going to say, I didn't realize how like how it did affect him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, yeah, we're good. And Evie goes off and watches TV. And I'm like, I go and, I didn't consider the matter closed, but like we need to get Liam to bed. And fed. So I'm getting stuff to do that. And he's like, hey, I told Evie that we're good. And I mean that. If I tell her I'm good, we're good. But as far as the situation goes, I'm not good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. And so like this it ended up being like basically an hour conversation. And I'm not going to walk us through the whole long conversation.
No, it's between you and him.
But I will share, well, one, also because we don't have an hour to go through. We started off on their nice porch looking at their mountain view, and it was like, I think this calls for a walk. So we go grab a couple of brewskis and take them for the walk. And like halfway through the conversation, we start laughing because there was definitely some miscommunication because he thought Sarah had seen what occurred and was going to address it with me. So he thought we both knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't. We were none the wiser. So like when he was bringing it up, he thought we already knew. And he thought he was like that we weren't being blindsided. I was like, oh, no, that was not the case, But like one of his concerns was, and he has nieces and nephews on Laura's side. And he sees a wide range of behavior, and he sees some of them getting away with stuff that maybe they shouldn't. And some of them being like nice and well behaved in front of parents, and then not so much when they're away. And so like a lot of it normal kid stuff, even if like not the ideal, right? But so as he saw it, Abby was just saying what she needed to say to like get what she wanted, which maybe she was like, that's what kids do, right? Like, what will get me through this difficult moment as quickly as possible? Like I did that growing up. I'm sure you did that growing up.
I see it with my nieces and nephews today.
Yeah. And like, do you allow it? Like here and there, because here's the challenge is like, and this is what we ended up talking about, is like, you can't make a kid feel anything. Like you can try to help guide them and help them understand the situation and how it affected other people. But you can't make them feel that. Like, I remember growing up and I was like, okay, tell your sister you're sorry. Sorry.
Right.
Obviously not meaning it. It's like, now mean it. It's like,
right.
I am not in the frame of mind, nor do I care, nor do I want to
what
mean
I'm
it.
saying, right.
And it's like, okay, go to your room until you mean it. It's like, okay. So we're trying to not do that, and no shade on my parents. They worked with what they had and they gave us a wonderful life.
Yeah.
But that's just one of the things we're trying to do different. Anyway, this conversation ended up being a long conversation, but it ended up, again, being an opportunity on the one hand to kind of share like, okay, hey, this is how we're doing it. This is why we're doing it. And this is an interesting kind of like collision of perspectives. Because on the one hand, well, even as a parent, it's so easy to see a behavior from your kid and like fast forward 20 years and be like, if you do that in 20 years, like you're going, one, get your ass whooped. And two, like, what does that say about like you as an individual and a contributing member of society?
Right.
Like, and so like, it's easy to like jump to doomsday and be like, oh my goodness, I'm raising a shit child,
One day at a time, Baba. One day at a time.
Exactly. And then I think from I don't know if like sometimes, I mean, I think you're more in the front line, so maybe it's less of a challenge for you. But I think for those who don't have kids, they easily make that jump.
It's because we do, as aunts and uncles, do have an obligation, right, for the well-being of those children. So obviously, me being around you since Sarah was pregnant with Evie and being part and around those conversations of how you two want to raise, like, it gave me that enlightenment to like how I need, you set the ground rules as well. It's like, okay, I'm at Paul and Sarah's house. This, there's certain rules that even I as an adult have to follow now, like when
Hmm.
it comes to Evie. And, and like, and it's different from how things are at my house right now with the nieces and nephews. So, like, with all these different styles, now I don't want to say conflict, but it kind of is. Like you have the two, like you're saying, these two perspectives. Neither's wrong, and so it's really like, okay, like unless you really have these conversations prior, how are aunts and uncles supposed to know?
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. And that goes for, relatives too. Like
I mean, when
we
I
had,
say aunts and uncles, I mean
yeah,
the whole
yeah,
spectrum. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And we had to have a conversation with Sarah's parents early on, like not a bad conversation or anything. It was just like a preemptive conversation.
Hmm.
And we had to have a conversation. This one was a bit more like putting out of a fire sort of type of conversation
Right.
with my dad and his wife. And then so yeah, it's like it's different and if there are different values or perspectives,
Hmm.
which I think we're seeing a lot of that in today's parenting versus how we were raised. It's just not always intuitive for them, right?
Like,
More
yeah.
often than not, they're like, okay, yeah, like we want to support you and we want to
Hmm.
we want to help you, like, and even if they don't necessarily fully agree, like they're like, we understand and like
Right.
we're not going to cross you and yeah.
Yeah. Like on
Go
the
ahead.
daily, I totally get Blair and Laura's because I'm kind of the same way too. I want, like, to Laura's point, like, well, it was bad. I mean, objectively, that was a bad thing to do. And so, like, with my nieces and nephews, now, now that most of them can critically think and come to quote unquote, well, not quote unquote, but moral decisions about actions,
Yeah.
like,
I'm
it's
going to
easier to,
challenge you though. It wasn't objectively bad. It was societally bad. Like, as a society, we have agreed that it's not appropriate, to run around a restaurant and like touch random things. But like, it's not like
to,
what she did wasn't objectively bad. It was not according to the societal
was
rules.
it a good?
It was neither good or bad.
It's
I
gotta be
would say,
one.
oh, it can be ambivalent, that we can do ambivalent things. But like,
Okay,
it
no,
okay,
but here's the thing. In her mindset, because of her, still learning how to create the formulations of the good and the bad, sure. But will she like, I don't want to do that because you guys are doing a good job. So I don't want to like paint it in a way that your parenting
nope,
is.
nope, bring it, bring it.
So I'm
See
gonna
this,
make this
okay,
I'm gonna
and
make
this
this
was
neutral.
okay. No, 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 no. What? 1 second. Hold that thought. And you don't have to make it neutral because here's the other thing about this conversation with Blair is it made me think about things like, am I? And this is a big worry
I
of
want to
mine.
get
Like,
to I want to get to Blair's point in a second
yeah,
because that's how the way he approached Evie, that's how I approached my nieces and nephews.
yeah. But like, am I being, you know, firm enough in my
Hmm.
holding of boundaries? So his and my conversation was good because we didn't even get to that part about how I was challenged and how I responded to that
Right.
challenge, like, and what you know I want to do differently. So that
Hmm.
being said, make your point. Don't feel like you had to be neutral about.
No, no, because I want to make it more universally applicable and not.
Nah, let it roll, let it rip.
No, no, no. It's got to be universal because children obviously don't have the capacity of rationality to make those decisions. Correct.
Yeah, at Evie's age, yeah.
You're right. Yeah, right. And that's it. That's basically universal. Having it for a kid to sit there and go through like the end of the action and make a judgment and a conscious decision. No, it's something shiny. Let me touch this.
Exactly. And it's not like she, rang up a bill for $5,000 and charged it to somebody, or it's not like, she took money out of the tip jar and even that could be argued as like, okay, like she's not trying to steal per se, she's like, oh, money, like
Right.
I don't understand like finders keepers,
Right.
probably like, so that's my point, is like it wasn't objectively bad. It was not in conformity to the rules that were defined for that environment, where everybody is expected to, comport themselves calmly and what's the word? Like to treat it like a restaurant and not like a park, So, but it wasn't more. I guess I should say it wasn't morally wrong or ethically wrong. Oh, now we're getting in the weeds. Okay, we probably don't have to dive into that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll have fun with this conversation later. But okay, now to Blair's, okay, obviously he was operating under the assumption that either one of you saw it. Regardless of that, me personally, I don't know if I would have handled it any differently. Like, try to communicate to my nieces and nephews when they do something like that. Like, what you did hurt me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Here's the only thing, and this is what I told Blair. Here's the only thing I would do a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Flip the two. Flip the apology with the communicating. So say, hey, I mean, I think even you and I would probably do something like this too. If you didn't know you had wronged me, I would come up and be like, hey, Andrew, like, I want to let you know that
I know.
when
I see what you're saying.
I went in for a
Get the
kiss and you didn't kiss
apology
me, it hurt my
Now I'm hurt.
feelings. And
No, okay, I would
and
agree to that. Explain how you're feeling to lead up to the to I don't want to say solicitation of an apology, but giving them the opportunity to
Yeah.
express. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, even still, after sometimes that they apologize to me or to their siblings, I'll ask them, like, how would you feel if they did that to you?
Mm-hmm.
Or things like that. And like, I'll keep that conversation going because cool, you apologize, but I want, like you said, you can't make a kid feel it or mean it,
Mm-hmm.
but they can understand it.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah. Well, and the circumstances were interesting because I was like, I don't want to get into the whole TV part, right? Because, and maybe if we have time, we can get back to that. But yeah, so like there's two perspectives, right? Or like, and the one perspective is like, okay, hey, this behavior, and I think it's probably easier for those without kids to fall into this perspective or to subscribe to this perspective. And that is like, oh, I see this behavior now, like you're like 20 years down the road, they're going to be doing the same thing.
Oh, no, yeah, we have very logical, like, downstream effect thought process.
And honestly, like that is a battle as a parent, to not like jump to that conclusion all the time either. But,
right.
And this is something that Blair and I talked about, is like, or at least try to share, is like, like raising a kid
ain't easy.
It's like no, and it's not, but it's like anything, you coach a kid at baseball, and like or t-ball even, and like they're going to miss the ball, like, and they're going to be abysmal, or they're going to whack the tee itself and like the ball just going to plop off and they're going to suck, right?
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're never going to hit the ball in the life. You know, that
And
doesn't
that they
mean that they're,
suck as a person.
or that they suck as a person, right? And that's the thing. And that's the perspective that kind of like, even as a parent, and we've talked about this too, you know, like as whether you're a biological parent or an aunt or uncle or just a human being, like in a sense, we're all parents, right? We all
Right.
have a responsibility to raise the children around us, you know, to be role models and whatever. And so was another reason why I love this conversation. Like Blair would say, it's like, you know, I'm not a parent and whatever, to kind of like preface his perspectives, like, bro, like you don't have to be. Like you've got two eyeballs, you know, you've got rationality, you have an understanding of what it means to be a good human being.
Right.
Like that is great. That's all you need, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and you want to be like, you want to help these kids. You want to help shape the future generations.
Yeah.
Like that's all you need, bro. Like that's amazing. Like I love that you care that much, you know? So anyway, like that perspective of, okay, like, hey, it's going to take a lot of reps, and a lot of those reps are going to be failures, but those failures are not predictions of the future. And if handled properly, those failures will actually shape a better future.
No,
I
yeah,
see you
you're
looking
right.
up.
Well, one, I can hear Evie. Two,
Mhm.
while you were saying that, I was just kind of thinking, you know, okay, like for me, and we'll throw Blair right there with me. We're not gonna be good uncles overnight.
Great point. Great point. It's exactly the same way. I'm not going to be a good dad overnight. You know,
We're on this journey with these children together to figure out the best way possible.
and here's something I've
And
heard
we're as
that's along
uncles,
those
we're
lines.
gonna mess up too, just as much as the kids. But the fact that we're
Mhm.
showing up day in, day out, and they can see Evie's gonna grow up knowing that she's got her blood aunts and uncles, and me, Atop, Blair, and Laura, like that they actually truly care about her and what's good for her.
Mhm.
Because we're trying to figure this all out with her.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and like having that love and that connection, I mean, that is only going to help bolster her confidence and her sense of self and her self-love, for which I'm so grateful. But real quick about that, like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not a good uncle yet. I'm not a good dad yet. I There was something I heard along those lines, especially to those who are like, "Oh, I'm a bad dad. I'm a bad mom," or whatever.
Mhm.
It's kind of the same with like with that baseball example. It's like, no, you're not a bad baseball player. You're learning how to play baseball.
Right.
Like, no, you're not a bad skateboarder. You're learning how to skateboard. No, you're not a
Mhm.
bad pianist. You're learning how to play the piano. It's the same thing. I'm not a bad dad. I'm learning how to, like, I'm practicing, I'm training.
Right.
And now, if I sit back and I don't do anything about it, you know, if I sit back and I never touch another ivory again, okay, yeah,
Mhm.
like you're a bad pianist because you're not even trying. Like, but yeah, it's all about is putting in those reps, learning, assessing, adapting.
Mhm. One thing that's helped me, and you probably hear Big Craig up in the background now,
Craig.
is especially with my nieces and nephews since they've gone through so much trauma, like, it really does suck to have to correct them. Like, one, you're like, "Okay, am I just adding to the trauma?" They're doing a lot better now, thank goodness. But And I encourage, like, just other parents to do this too. It's it's something I've never really thought about, and I don't know, you and I probably never had this, but after that correction, just going over, giving him a hug or a kiss and just being like, "I still love you through all of this." Like, this, just explaining it on that level, but, like, that, because like you said, like, sometimes with words, they internalize it, but it's, it reassures them that they're not a bad person and that they are loved, that you didn't stop loving them because you had to correct them on a behavioral issue.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. And you know, in some cases, like what I've heard recommended, like, or in some cases, it may even be helpful to like go up and be like, hey, like, and it's all circumstance dependent,
Mhm.
right? Like, it kind of like in an episode that's going to be dropping next week, a little sneak peek here. Sean's like, like if your kid is like out in the middle of the road, you're not going to go and be like, hey, you're a good kid, and we don't like stand, like
Right.
you
I love that
give the
example.
long correction,
Yeah. Or
get like,
the soft parenting the gentle parenting when actually a shout to get them out of harm's way would work.
yeah,
Would be the more
exactly,
appropriate, yeah.
yeah. Um, but if it's not a matter of life and death or imminent danger,
Mhm.
usually um you can go up to them and be like, hey, like, yeah, you're a good kid, and help them understand that, and then like, and we don't break shit,
Mhm.
like, or and like, or it's like I see your anger, like I see you're frustrated, I would be frustrated too, and it's not okay to hit your brother or
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, we have
But
those conversations with the boys all the time.
yeah,
Does it sink
but
in?
yet
No,
yet
but
yet it
exactly.
will, it will. That's the thing, is it's those those,
You
it's
just
those
get it
many little
you're
reps.
building that, yeah, exactly. You're building that muscle of thinking before you act.
And yeah, muscle, that's a good one.
Well, you said reps, so I was like, I gotta keep it in the muscle analogy.
Yeah. And
Because
honestly, like, this is something, oh, go ahead.
no, you please.
This is something that like even I need constant reminders for myself. Is that what you were about to say?
Basically.
Tex-Mex, bro. Tex-Mex.
Long story.
Inside joke. But it's like I make these grand schemes,
Mhm.
right? Like, okay, I am going to go, you know, I do better ish these days, but like I'm going to go and like I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, and I'm going to work out for 3 hours, and I'm going to like eat clean. I'm not going to eat shit, and whatever the case is. And then I burn out real quick and it doesn't
Mhm.
happen. And then I'm back to my old habits. But then like what changes have I like where have I seen the most change? It's one, it's in like the small incremental changes.
Yeah.
And two, it's in the just like the non-judgmental like observations.
Mhm.
Like, ooh, like I responded, I reacted out of anger there, and I snapped at Sarah, and like that's not who I want to be.
Right.
And yeah, sure, like there's the whole thing about like, making sure you apologize and like whatever. But just like I feel like just a simple act to be like, that's not who I want to be. And next time, like this is what I would do differently. Just takes a split second. And
Mhm.
I don't even have to commit. I don't even have to say like am going to, like for the next 10 times that Sarah asked me to do something, I'm going to, say, yes, my sweet love, I will absolutely do that for you. Like, I don't have to make a commitment like that. It's just like a small observation of like, that's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. I'm going to do it differently. And then you add those up over time. And to your point, like that feedback loop, like gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And eventually I'm thinking that as I'm snapping at Sarah and I'm like, actually, this just happened. Let's see if I can remember what I was saying. I was being an asshole as I'm wont to be. I think Sarah was correcting Evie on something. Oh, we were trying to get Evie to wait for dinner to eat, and there was a plate of bacon on the table, and Evie was just like, playing with the bacon, and then she eventually grabs a piece of bacon, and Sarah jumps in and like starts correcting her. And like me with my helpful smart ass or whatever, I started saying like, well, what did you think was going to happen if she was like playing with the bacon? Which, okay, I had no right in saying. Like, one, I saw the same thing. I could have jumped in and told
you didn't do
Evie to back
anything.
up. I was like, right. So I had no right in saying that. No justification. No. And even if I did, there was justification to say something, I shouldn't be saying it that way or whatever. But I realized what I was saying halfway through. And like Sarah gives me the appropriate death stare, and she's like, "Don't even right now."
Dare
like
you.
I'm like,
I dare.
I stopped. I heard it coming out of my mouth. I was reacting. I'm sorry, but anyway, that doesn't always happen. But those feedback loops, they get earlier. Those get quicker and quicker. Meaning I don't catch myself. Doesn't always happen.
I was gonna say
those asshole moments happen all the time. Yes,
I know very few people that have as quick comebacks as Paul does, or quips. Very few.
That's a nice way of putting it. Assholeisms.
I just call them Paulisms.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, no, it's like I'll say something and like without missing a beat, like I don't even get my sentence out and you say something either. I'm just like, God damn it, or laughing my ass off.
Those are the better ones.
But like, okay, so I was just gonna point out, like we talked about this with Chris the other week. Sure, it was in light of stronger vices, but he said, you have to to break these habits of what is the person I want to become. What does the person I want to become do, rather than the negative effect of it, side of it. Like what does a good Andrew do?
Yeah. And like that is at such odds with yeah, like how, at least based off of how I was raised, with like how I think things should be done. And the thing is, it's not at the exclusion of doing practical things.
Right.
That's the key point. Like, you're not just like, okay, yeah, this isn't who I am and this is who I want to be, and then you're just doing these mantras and then never changing, right? But it's instead of saying like, oh my God, like I fucked up, I'm a failure, I'm never going to get this right. It's like, oh, okay, no. Stop with that judgment. You're a good person. Yeah, you fucked up. Yeah, you need to make amends. Is this who you want to be? No. Then who do you want to be? This.
What is that?
And then, was that?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. And then you couple that with whatever you're working on at that time. And then whatever you're working on at that time, that's where you're deliberate and you're like, and you're tracking it on a list, and you're being more deliberate in your reviews. Like, okay, hey, did I do my PT today? Yes, no, then why not? What do I need to do differently tomorrow, etc. Anyway, interesting how parenting Evie transformed into parenting ourselves.
I think it's I mean, if you're gonna, it goes hand in hand. Like how when I flipped it to, if I'm gonna be a good uncle, like I have it's the same mindset. Like, I'm going to mess up. Like, that's just gonna happen. It's human nature. But that also gives Evie that example of making mistakes is normal. It shouldn't be shunned. Like, if I'm gonna be a better person, I'm gonna make a hell of a lot of mistakes. It's the only way to be better. But as long as I'm
Yeah.
chasing that good, then
Mistakes are the only way we can learn, right?
mhm,
Yeah. So I do want to spend some time on like what I can do, like what I would do differently or what I can do differently. Because when I was talking with Blair, I mean, I told him like, bro, like, thank you so much for bringing this to me because not everybody
mhm,
would. Some people would just like let it slide. Others would like let it slide and then let it fester, and be
mhm.
like these asshole parents, they don't know what they're doing. They're raising a bad kid, like, or whatever. And
It raises a different question in my mind, but we'll let you continue.
what's the question?
Well, it's like, at the end of the day, do those people really care about you being the best person you can be? If they're just
Yeah.
gonna
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what I told Blair is like, you cared enough to come like about Evie and about our relationship to come and
mhm,
talk to me man to man about how you're not good, how this went down, etc. And we were able to work through it and he was able to feel vindicated
mhm,
and we were able to get on the same page. And for me, it was like because one of my biggest challenges as a parent is I'm trying to parent differently than how we were raised largely.
mhm.
And in some cases, we have overcorrected or yeah, like gone too far the other way. I wouldn't say
Right.
we, do like the straight up stereotypical gentle parenting of like, like whatever like permissive parenting,
Mhm.
right? We've had an episode on that.
Yep.
But like could our boundaries be stronger? Definitely in some cases. And this was probably one of those situations where it's like, okay, hey, like, yeah, like this is not appropriate. Spitting in somebody else's face is not appropriate. And let Blair say his piece. And and then like going from there. So I think this is what I would do differently next time. I think if I were to be caught unawares again,
Mhm.
I would probably say, hey, like, because she's on her way to watch TV, like, I don't necessarily have an issue with her watching TV, like, in general, but I was like, okay, this is unresolved. This is somebody else's TV. Like, Sarah, can you watch Evie for a second? Like, hang out with, like, not putting her in timeout per se, but like, it's basically an accompanied timeout, right? And then Blair, like, can you fill me in? Like, I don't know what's going on here. Can you fill me in, like, on what's going on? And
Mhm.
then we can bring Evie back in and be like,
Right,
okay,
right.
hey,
Because he like you said, he was operating under the assumption you both
because the other option I could have done is be like, okay, Evie, explain yourself right now. Why'd you spit in his face? And like, that's not appropriate.
Mhm.
And but that also wouldn't give her the chance, like, because she wasn't trying to be mean, right? Like, it's not appropriate. Absolutely not. But she wasn't trying to be mean. She was just reacting, right? And she was processing her feelings inappropriately, yes. But like both of those things need to be accommodated. Neither person's feelings are more important than the other. Like Blair's feelings and like how it affected him and the appropriateness of it needs to be addressed and like given space for. And also like Evie's ability to regulate and learning how
Mhm.
to process it and what the appropriate way is, you know, that needs to be taken into account too. So I
Right.
think that's what I would do differently next time. But I told Blair is like this conversation is awesome because it gives me like it challenges me on this and it helps me kind of find like move back towards the happy middle ground of making sure that our boundaries are firm enough
Mhm.
and making sure that we are conveying appropriately what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate
Right.
and And I know we're almost out of time, but we have one more incident from the week. So the next day, we're wrapping up, we're packing up, ready to go. And mind you, like overall, this trip was a huge success, right?
Yeah.
Great fun, great memories, great company. These are just blips on the radar. And honestly, I don't even know if Evie remembers them. I asked her, well, that's neither here nor there. But we're packing up, loading up the car. I walk into the house. Blair is sitting on the couch watching something on his phone. Evie, this is from my point of view, out of nowhere, goes up and spits in Blair's face again. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And immediately you see like deer in the headlights' eyes. She's like, oh, I fucked up. She's like, no, I didn't mean to. And she runs off. She's like, I made a mistake. And she runs off. I'm like, Blair, are you okay? He's like, yeah, it was barely anything at this point. It was like, barely any spittle. Like, I'll go talk to her. So Evie, she's locked herself in the room. It's like, do you want to go for a walk? Yes. So long story short, we go for a walk. I give her a chance to get at ease, and then we start talking about it. And it was really interesting hearing her perspective, because as she will say, and I don't think this was an excuse, I think she was being honest. As she was doing it, her brain caught up and was like, oh, this isn't something I should be doing. So she reacted. She acted on an impulse before her mind was able to stop her. And she's like, I couldn't stop. Yeah, I couldn't stop it, and it happened. And then that tracked with how immediately she reacted. Anyway, the walk was a good opportunity, and I'm almost glad that she did it again.
The fact that she could articulate something like that kind of lends some credibility to what she was saying.
Yeah. As opposed to just saying like I didn't mean to do it, or I mean, which I would have been the same thing effectively, but or my body made me do it or something. Making it wasn't an excuse. She was just. But I was almost glad that it happened again, because we were able to talk more about okay, hey, how does it make Blair feel, and I couldn't make her feel sorry like we talked about earlier, but I think I was able to help her kind of understand the situation and why it's not appropriate.
Right.
And I was like, so what do you think you could do differently next time? And if you feel like that impulse to spit on somebody, what could you do? She thought for a minute. Was like, I could spit to the side. I'm like, hey, that's progress. You're not spitting on the person. I'm like, okay, what else? If you don't want to spit at all. She's like, I could put a hand over my mouth and hold it in. I'm like, okay. And then she's like, and I could swallow it. And she's like, so anyway, she has ideas of what she's going to do next time. And she didn't we tried to get her to say sorry. I was like, do you want to say sorry? She's like, no. Do you want me to help you say sorry? Yes. She couldn't say it verbally. I think she felt so embarrassed, And it's hard to admit.
A little bit of a shame, yeah.
Yeah. And so what she ended up doing was she wrote a note. And she said, I'm sorry, I mean to, she was trying to say I didn't mean to, or she was doubling down and said I meant to. I don't know. But anyway, we're out of time now, but it was a great experience, great learning opportunity for me, great chance for us to kind of help iron out some of the wrinkles with our village. And I feel that much more confident that the next time we hang out, we will be more on the same page. And not only that, if we're not on the same page about something, I think we're all going to feel that much more comfortable to say, hey, this is something that's not jiving. How do we work through it?
Right. No, I'm sure it will, because I kind of have to I have to watch you when I'm visiting you and Sarah, to be get my mindset on that, rather than, because we have these conversations all the time, Paul. And so it's just changing that mindset. So I have to watch you, defer to you before I can. What's the word? Most of the time personally just like to leave things to you, but there's a couple times you've told me like, "No, Uncle Andrew's gonna give you the correction." I'm just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
don't fuck up because I have to follow Paul's rules now." But like, obviously, it's like I want what's best for Evie, and so yeah, it's like the way you raise her. I have to follow that in guidelines, and while
Yeah.
still being me, if that makes
I
sense.
appreciate that. And yes, that is a great point about like while it's still being you. I think that's the one thing. This is the last thing I'll say before we wrap up. If if Evie, this is really hard for me to actually do, but if Evie is engaging with another adult and she's like climbing all over them or like doing things that like I could see like being annoying or
Mhm.
intrusive or whatever, like I could easily jump in and say, and I have done, I could easily jump in and it's like, hey, sit down or like give her space or whatever. It's like, but what I'm trying to do is like, that's an adult. Like she or he can set a boundary and say like, hey, like,
Mhm.
can you please not climb on me? Or how about you sit here? And it's good both ways. One,
Yeah.
you know, it helps their relationship.
Mhm.
Two, it helps Evie understand boundaries come from other people in general, not just from her parent.
Right.
And three, it's just less, I mean, it's less shaming, it's less corrective,
Mhm.
because it's about you and me, right?
Right.
As opposed to, three of us, like, or like
Mhm.
you and me and then my dad.
Right.
So point being, like, yeah, Andrew, you or uncle and aunt out there who's ever dealing with my kid or probably anybody's kids, like, feel free to set the boundaries. Like if a kid is climbing,
That's
like has you
mhm.
in a chokehold and you don't like it, be like, okay, I'm going to have you get down here or like redirect him or whatever.
Yeah. No, I think that's, like, a very solid point, and I know where you're going off on another topic, but I'll wrap it up, like, here. Yeah. I am my own person. I get to dictate what my boundaries are, and, yeah, even little kids have to follow that, and it's not on you as Evie's dad to tell Evie what my boundaries are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like you could be totally fine with her like having you in a chokehold or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you could be roughhousing the two of you and I'm like, oh no, stop having fun, like it's like dad. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to my spiel. And thank you, Blair and Laura, if you're listening to this, for letting me use these examples to kind of like talk through it all. Honestly, I think Blair and Laura are great examples of individuals who are extremely intentional about being involved aunts and uncles in their actual nieces and nephews' lives, but also of those children of their close friends. And they're going to be very positive role models in my children's life. I know this. They already are, and they will be,
Mhm.
and they will continue to be based off of these conversations that they weren't easy conversations, and they weren't
Right.
easy to broach, but we're all better for it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, if you're listening and you're an aunt or an uncle, be like Blair and Laura. And if you're a parent, get Blairs and Lauras in your life. I'm lucky to have,
Yeah.
Blair and Laura, Andrew Stolpelstead here, or Umbaba as we call him. All my
TT.
yes, my siblings, Sarah's siblings, we're very blessed. But go get you some Babas and Blairs and Lauras.
Mhm.
Build your village.
Amen to that. No further comment.
Amen, amen. And with that, it's time for dinner.
Yes.
Andrew, thank you for your time. Listeners, thank you for your time. If this resonated with you, or you think of somebody who would benefit from this, share the show with them.
Yep.
And until next time,
Thank you all, and thank you, Paul.
peace.